Weeks later, the murder investigation of 4 University of Idaho college students seemingly stuck in neutral.
Moscow police say they have received 10,000 tips related to the investigation. Investigators believe whoever was in that car in Moscow may have critical information.
Is there anything new in the investigation?
What I can tell you is this case is not going cold.
Y'all, the twists and turns just keep coming and going left and right. And at the end of the day, they still don't have at least any named suspects out there publicly. And obviously, no one has been arrested and brought to charges for the awful, horrible things that have taken place in Idaho. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the damn sofa. That's the damn sofa behind me. And our little mascot, Mr. Roscoe, is actually in my arms right now. He did not want to sit on the sofa. He wanted to be my comfort dog to talk about today's video. Now, as you saw and you heard, we're going to be discussing a few more updates in the case that's going on right now out in Idaho. This is a horrifyingly tragic case where 4 young, beautiful people have lost their lives, and it has clearly the town on edge, and then the country at minimum, right? And so we're going to talk about a few of the things. Now, as you know, if you follow true crime, or if this is a case that kind of brought you into it, during cases like this where not a lot of information is known in the beginning, you know, there's a lot of speculation, stuff going on, all that. So I've been reading your emails. I've been looking at your videos that you've sent me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so I kind of was just letting things go for a few days till there was more stuff to kind of talk about and whatnot. So I really just want to discuss a few different things that I've seen kind of come and go in the media or whatever. And then, like I usually do, I'll give my opinion throughout, and especially toward the end of the video on these specific things. And the specific things I really want to talk about today is that Adam, who is Adam video that came out, as well as what the father had to say about it. I want to go over a couple of things that are coming directly from the police department with their daily update videos they do, which I absolutely love, and then the white car, and then talk about the neighbor a little bit, that kind of stuff. So anyways, let's go ahead and do that now. Before we get started, y'all drop whatever represents love and support to y'all, whether it's sofas or hearts or whatever. This time of year is, I can't imagine, and we'll hear from the father. I'm not sure if I saved the clip or not, but obviously this is a rough time of year to be losing your child, right? So my heart breaks for them, the victims, the family members, everybody. So just show love in the comments. And that's it. Let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so let's first talk about the white car. So they're still on the lookout for this white Hyundai. The person, the clerk at the store, poured over all those hours of tape. They saw this car. It was totally sus. So they turned this in. The cops are out looking for it, and then there was this lead, like this abandoned, wrecked looking car, right? So let's look at a news clip about this, and then we'll talk about it.
New details now on the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students in Moscow. A crashed white Hyundai Elantra was found in Eugene, Oregon. Claims of the car being connected to the murders that happened in Moscow over a month ago started appearing online. These are photos of the car in Oregon. Eugene police responded to a call of a person sleeping in the car last Saturday night. They say there's no reason to believe the Elantra is connected to the Moscow murders, but they did send details about the car to Moscow police. Idaho State Police confirmed to KTVB that the car found wrecked in Eugene belongs to a person in Colorado. Moscow police say they are aware of the Elantra in Eugene and are working with the jurisdiction there in Oregon to see if it's related to the murder case.
Okay, so as we hear them reporting, and we'll hear from the police chief here in a minute, it doesn't look like this is connected, but I mean, obviously this is very suspicious. And this is another way that I think social media and the outreach to the public can help, because clearly, I mean, what a coincidence, right? Any stone left unturned could possibly leave a clue undone. And so I think kudos to people who sniffed this out. It is like a needle in a haystack when they look for these cars, but I trust they'll be able to do this, right? I think it will take them a little bit of time, but let's listen to a clip from the daily reportings from the actual police department.
What do you have for an update about the white Hyundai Elantra?
We have many tips that have come in on the 2011 to the 2013 Hyundai Elantra. But what we're asking is anybody else who still hasn't sent in a tip, if you own one or if you know somebody who was driving one the day before or the day after, to please send that tip in.
Okay, so there you go. You know, I'm pretty confident that the right car on the side of the road with somebody sleeping in it has nothing to do with it. That being said, I think it's interesting that he says the thing about if you know someone driving one. I mean, they are very interested in this car, right? They are very interested. And I think that this car has probably been seen in multiple places or whatever. There is a very highly possible reason. Again, not saying that the car had directly something to do with it, but there's definitely a reason they believe that this car has information in regards to this. Okay, so now let's talk about the whole Adam thing. That was another big thing that was flying around out there. The bartender Adam, more video resurfaced, or not resurfaced, but it was put out there. And this was the girls walking. They were with the guy who was also seen in the other video at the food truck. And they were talking about the bartender Adam. And they were like, what did you tell Adam? I told Adam everything, that kind of a thing. And so this went around, like, and of course it's who's Adam? Well, he's the bartender. He's been in TikToks at the house. All this kind of stuff. I mean, he seems to be like a friend, right? So there's that. Now, again, this is another lead that seems to have not really gone anywhere. But what I want to do is, well, first of all, I want to say it hasn't gone anywhere. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, this doesn't mean anything. Again, this could be, looking at this, I too was like, who is Adam, right? Let's listen to what the father had to say about it, and then I'll make my commentary, because one thing that takes place is, people like us, like me or whatever, that don't know these young people, these young ladies, the guy and all that, like, we don't know what they sound like normally talking, all that kind of stuff. So, like, when we hear this, it might be like, was this drama? Was this an issue? That kind of a thing. Whereas what we're about to hear the father say, it sounds completely benign and that type of thing. But again, you never know, and it's stuff like this that could lead to, oh, we found, somebody who has more information, or we know at least where they were at this time, that type of thing. So kudos to the video coming out and all that kind of stuff. Let's listen to what the father has to say about it, and then we'll talk about that.
That film, to the family, we've had that film for a while. I believe the business reached out to us directly, and after they had given it to the police. So it was kind of comforting to us, because it's just two girls having a good time talking about, asking about their bartender and just being girls on their way to the grub truck.
Yeah, so you don't suspect that this guy, Adam, that's stated in the video is somehow a suspect or anything like that. You guys have known about this video for a while.
We have, and we asked, and we did the obvious due diligence when we looked into that, and it was pretty clear that this individual was not a part of the investigation as far as a suspect.
So there you have it. And one thing I thought was nice about this is the dad saying that it was kind of reassuring to them to see, again, another snapshot of, their daughter, her friend, that kind of a thing. And I think some of this evidence that comes out like that can, even if it doesn't provide like a direct link to, oh, we've got, the person or whatever. I mean, you hear this, it's like another moment of their child's life that they can have back, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. But then also him saying, this is just two girls. He might know how they sound. Well, obviously, they know how their daughter and their friend sound. I mean, they were best friends. So, like you said, they did the due diligence, that type thing. So there's that. So Adam has crossed off the list. Now what I want to do is look at another clip from that interview and from the father, and talk about a couple of things he said. So let's roll tape, and then we'll talk about it.
Steve, we talked about this off air, but one of the reasons why I want to bring this up is because I think it's critical to this investigation. A lot of these young people were teenagers, and there may have been some illicit activity that was minor that they would have gotten in trouble for, and it may be preventing them from coming forward. What can you tell these young people to kind of motivate them to give up some answers? Don't worry about all the petty stuff. 4 innocent lives were lost here.
Yeah, I want kids to understand that this is such a big case that these guys have their hands full. I wanted to go out there and tell everyone we support the Gonzalez family, support the local police officers, so much so that we want them to be able to work on this case. I know that this is way over the normal workload that they normally have. Plus, they have patrols. They have to patrol now. This guy's not caught. So, there was some rumors that I had called these officers a coward. That was not for these officers. That was for a lawyer that was standing in between what the officers would like to release and what is actually being released. And I called that individual And this was just about coming forward and saying that the profile is a male.
Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, the profile is a male. You know, again, do I think that's interesting? Not really, because we kind of assume that, but again, you can in these investigations, but okay, cool. Also that he clarified that aspect, because I remember when that all went around of, oh, he said this. The interview that he's referring to that he gave, I mean, I didn't interpret what he said to be calling the cops cowards. I took it to be the lawyers, but at least he clarified that. And he's sitting here saying we support them. Now, also, key point in this too is the dynamic, because we see this happen in a lot of cases where someone, and not just involving young people, it could be anybody, where somebody might be like, I have this information, but because I was doing X that was wrong, I don't want to come forward with that information. And especially in a scenario like this where it's like college age children. I cannot spit that out. I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. You know, young people who, you know, whether it's, you know, marijuana, underage drink, whatever, you know, something that might be big to them, that in the scope of things now, it's like, look, this doesn't matter at this point, right? And so I like that they're putting this message out of like, look, this is more important right now than something like that. Now what I want to do real quick is read an article. It's from Newsweek. It's about the neighbor who has been making his rounds on social media, talking about what took place. This is a neighbor who reported that he heard a scream and they said he didn't, and da-da-da. So I just want to read this very quickly, some excerpts from it, so I can make some commentary on that, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. So, who is Einan Harsh, neighbor of slain Idaho students who heard scream? As the mystery surrounding the murders of 4 University of Idaho students lingers, a neighbor who said he heard a scream on the night of the murders is continuing to be discussed online. He's 30 years old. He lives in an apartment complex a few doors down from the house, and he told the Idaho Statesman early in December that he had gotten home from his job as a cook at a restaurant in Pullman, Washington, his hometown, which is located about 10 miles from Moscow, at around 1:30 a.m. on the night of the murders. He told the newspapers that the newspaper reported that Harsh said he couldn't be sure, but he thinks that he heard a scream from the vicinity of his neighbor's home when he was dozing off around 4 a.m. It didn't grab his attention, he said, because he assumed it was a party sound. I didn't think anything of it, Harsh said. After what happened, I've definitely had second thoughts. Maybe it was not a party sound. He added that he didn't mention the detail to police during the initial conversation with an officer. I'm not sure what good it does for them now, he said. He's also written about the murders on social media, taken part in a Reddit Ask Me Anything, been interviewed on YouTube, I think it was Hidden True Crime that he was on, and also referenced the murders on TikTok videos on his channel, leading to him continuing to be discussed online in association to the case. In his lengthy introductory post on Reddit AMA, Harsh described the victims as beautiful, friendly, kind, and joyful. He wrote that when an officer knocked on his door and asked if he had heard anything on the night of the murders, he was like, no, nothing unusual. I didn't know there was a murder, so small details like a faint scream in the distance, one of my neighbors getting home, closing their front door were not on my mind, he wrote. I heard a scream, faint and party-like to my half-asleep eyes. To be clear, there's probably at least 5 screams every Saturday. He also discussed his own life at length, including his history of drug use and past convictions, saying it was one that many will judge and consider immoral. Okay, so there's that. So let's start with that. Let's discuss some of this stuff. So yes, the neighbor. A lot of you have asked me, like, what do I think? So on and so forth. I'm not going to sit here in any kind of context and say, do I think he's guilty, not guilty, did it, not did it, whatever. We see, if y'all follow this, which not just this case, but a lot of true crime, then you'll know. Yes, a lot of times somebody reinserts himself into a case. We've seen this. Again, my last video where I talked about Stephen. You know, this was a classic case when he was doing interviews just like this guy, right? Is this guy's behavior odd? Yeah, completely. I mean, do I think he's just kind of an odd fellow? Yeah, completely. Did I think his interview was odd on TV? Yeah, completely. But I think he could have just been nervous for, nervous sake, maybe. Are some of his answers a little concerning about stuff? Yeah, a little bit. This is my opinion overall on him. Do I think the cops need to kind of just have their eye on him? Yeah, but he doesn't make that difficult because he's being so out there with it. Oftentimes we'll see this too, where somebody just, he was there, right? Maybe it's the attention that he's getting because he's part of it. Maybe he's fascinated and this is his way to stay in the loop with it. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of that. So again, you know, I'm not sitting here in any way, shape, or form thinking like, oh, 100%, you know. I'm waiting to see what the investigators come up with. I think anyone who would be on their radar, that they need to be keeping that person or persons or whoever it is on their radar. And so if this person happens to be on the radar, which I don't know, I wasn't there, then he's making it a very easy job for them. He's not going anywhere, right? And he's being, you know, out there with all this information and himself. So, you know, there's that. Of course, he's going to be discussed because, just like the article said, he keeps putting himself out there to be discussed. There's something to be said for that. The biggest question comes to me with people like this is when you look at, is what they're coming out with something that's more like, you know, being in the mix, attention, that kind of thing, or forming an alibi. If you look back at other similar situations like this, Chris Watts, Steven, and not, you know, that I'm trying to compare the crimes, but just people who got on TV and, you know, did this kind of stuff, it was more of an alibi type situation, right? So there's that on that. Now, again, like I said earlier with the car, I think the car is 100% going to be something. I think there's more information that they know about the car than we don't know, clearly. And I think that's why they're very pressed about if you know anyone. I mean, it's to the point of being like, have you seen one of these cars? Call us. You know what I'm saying? I'm being dramatic a little bit, but you get what I'm saying. I'm very proud of the people who were able to sniff this car out and find this and turn that in. That tells me that, yes, the message is out there. People are aware. And that's what it takes to get these things solved. Again, the Adam thing, you know, I didn't want to put up a bunch of the clips that I found on here because I feel like he's not a suspect, you know what I'm saying? So I don't want to put him out there like that, but he's in TikToks at their house, you know, he's just in the mix. Now also, and you know, I think I saw this on Inside Edition where, you know, this whole call to the house where, like, I think Labor Day weekend about a noise complaint, and like, it sounds to me like maybe the tenants of the house left because they got one of the girls on the phone or whatever and she wasn't there, but basically a house party going on. And that's not to sit here and say, oh, shame on them or anything like that. Again, these are college kids, okay? This is what, I mean, the cops know this, right? This is what goes on in college town. These kids are away from home for the first time, right? It's kids, you know, being kids, right? And that's not to condone, like, you know, out there partying hard and stuff like that, but it is what it is. It's, you know, it is what it is. So the thing about that I'm like, ugh, is the fact that, you know, when the cops go to the house, there's two young men answering the door who don't even live there. And they're like, you know, I don't even know who lives there. Now, again, they could be making that up to try and, you know, cover for their friend, but nonetheless, this will segue kind of into some of my thoughts on just, again, where I'm at. I still remain, and I think the cops clearly know more than they're telling us. We see evidence of this over the Adam video when the dad says we've had this evidence for a while, right? And then it just kind of hits, it gets out there and gets circulated and whatnot, so they've already marked that out the list. They know more than they're telling us, and even more than they're telling the parents. Clearly, we've seen this in the other interviews. But what I think is happening, would it surprise me if they have like a suspect right now? Absolutely not. Would not surprise me at all. Wouldn't surprise me if they're really trying to play the game of, we don't want the suspect to think that we're on to them, right? That happens a lot of times. So that would not shock me if that came out at all in the least little bit. Again, I think the car is going to lead us to something, and I think that it's good that the public and this awareness is out there because, again, a lot of people in this day and age, they might not be watching TV, they might not be watching, you know, people, it's just people digest media differently, and so it's kind of surprising, but nonetheless, it happens of, you know, people might not hear about this. So the fact that, you know, the car got reported or the, you know, wait, who's this Adam guy? That kind of a thing. I mean, I think these are good signs that the public is aware and they're keeping their eyes open and also trying to remain safe, right? I think that part is major. I love that the police, they get on the, you know, the video, they have the YouTube channel, they put these videos out daily. This is what we're doing. They have their rumor control thing on their website to do all that stuff with. So kudos to them. again, my heart goes out to the victims of the family. Now, I want to end the video with playing their most recent, what the police chief had to say. So that's that. I'm going to let that play out here. And this is actually from the 20th. Is the 20th or the 21st? I can't remember. It's the 20th or 21st. His little daily update that he does. So anyways, just be aware of that. So that is it. I love you, Sofa Squad. And again, thank you for everybody sending me, the correspondence about the case. I am following it. And so once it, kind of gathers up enough to discuss it and go over it, that's what I'll do. And so that's it. Thank you very much for everyone being here, and love to all the victims and their families.
So I know there's been some questions about the leadership in this investigation. What I want people to know is this is a Moscow Police Department investigation. We're utilizing the resources of the FBI and the state police, but we pick the investigators. My command team oversees this. We have 94 years of experience between us, and we're going to continue to work this case. We're going to continue to work it to the completion. We have a lot of resources that we're utilizing, but we still ask for your help. We ask for any tips that you might have, anything that you might be able to give us. We're going to take a look at those, but be assured that this investigation is the Moscow Police Department's, and I am the chief, and we're going to follow through with this. And just know that from the very beginning of this, we've been a unified group, and we make decisions together, but those ultimately I stand behind at the end. I'd like to update you on our tips so far. We've received 7,600 email tips. We've received 4,300 phone tips. We've received 4,500 digital tips. All of this helps build the picture that we're trying to put together here to solve this case. What we want you to know is we appreciate all your help. We appreciate everything that you've done, but we're asking that if you have anything additional, please just send it to us through our tip line or through our email tip line. We appreciate that.